How the sky gods' stories came to be known as spider stories. How the sky gods' stories came to be known as spider stories. You're listening to World Reading Club, presented by Hakeem Alibokis Alexander on Spreaker, Social Podcasting, and Wisdom, Social Audio Inc., presented for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. This edition's reading focus comes to us from the Annotated African American Folk Tales, edited with a forward, introduction, and notes by Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Maria Tatar. How the sky gods' stories came to be known as spider stories. We do not really mean that what we are going to say is true. Kwaku Anansi, or Spider, once went to Nyankapan, the sky god, in order to buy the sky god's stories. The sky god said, "Will you be able to buy them?" Spider said, "I am sure I will be able to buy them." The sky god said, "Great and powerful towns like Kokofu, Bekwai, Asumengya have come, but they were unable to purchase them. And you, who are but a mere masterless man, will you really be able to buy them?" Spider said, "What is the price of the stories?" The sky god said, "They cannot be bought for anything except Onini the python, Osebo the leopard, Mosha the fairy, and Umumboro the hornets." Spider said, "I will bring some of these things, and what's more, I'll add my old mother, Nsia, the sixth child, to the lot." The sky god said, "Go and bring them then." Spider returned home and told his mother all about what had happened, saying, "I wish to buy the stories of the sky god, and the sky god says I must bring Onini the python, Osebo the leopard, Umosha the fairy, and Umumboro the hornets. And I said I would add you to the lot and give all of you to the sky god." Spider consulted his wife, Aso, saying, "What is to be done that we may capture Onini the python?" Aso said to him, "Go cut off the branch of a palm tree and cut some kidium, and cut some string creeper as well, and bring them back." And Spider came back with them. Aso said, "Take them to the stream." So Anansi took them, and as he was moving along, he said, "It's longer than he is." "It's not as long as he is." "You lie. It's longer than he is." Spider said, "There he is, lying over there." Python, who had overheard the imaginary conversation, said, "What's this all about?" Spider said, "It's my wife, Aso, who is arguing with me and telling me that this palm branch is longer than you are, and I say she is a liar." Onini the python said, "Bring it over here and come measure me." Spider took the palm branch and laid it out next to Python's body. He said, "Stretch yourself out." Python stretched himself out, and Anansi took the rope creeper and wound it around. The sound of the tying was "Nwinini, Nwinini, Nwinini," until he reached the head. Anansi the spider said, "You fool! I shall now take you to the sky god and receive the sky god's tails in exchange." Anansi took him off to Niami, and the sky god said, "My hand has touched it, but there remains what still remains." Spider returned and told his wife what had happened, saying, "There remain the hornets." His wife replied, "Look for a gourd, fill it with water, and go off with it." Spider went along through the bush, but when he saw a swarm of hornets hanging in the air, Spider went along through the bush when he saw a swarm of hornets hanging in the air. He poured out some of the water and sprinkled it on the hornets. Spider then poured the rest on himself and cut a leaf of the plantain and covered his head with it. Then he addressed the hornet, saying, "Now that it's raining, you should go into the gourd so that the rain won't beat down on you. Can you see what I've covered myself? Can you see that I've covered myself with a plantain leaf?" The hornets replied, "We thank you, Aku. We thank you, Aku." The hornets all flew into the gourd and disappeared. Boom! Father Spider covered its mouth, and he said, "Fools, I have caught you, and I am going to exchange you for the sky god's stories." And he took the hornets to the sky god. The sky god said, "My hand has touched them, but there remains what still remains." Spider came back again and said to his wife, "There remains Osebo the leopard." Aso said, "Go and dig a hole." Anansi said, "That's enough. I understand." Then Spider went off to look for the leopard's tracks, and once he found them, he dug a very deep pit and covered it. Then he went home. Early the next day, when objects started to become visible, Spider said he would go out, and when he was moving along, lo and behold, a leopard had landed in the pit. Anansi said, "Little father's child, little mother's child, I told you not to get drunk, and now, just as expected, you have become intoxicated. That's why you fell into the pit. If I were to agree to lift you out the very next day, if you saw me or any of my children, you would run after them and catch them." The leopard said, "Oh, I would never do such a thing." Anansi went and cut 2 sticks, put one here and one there. He said, "Put one of your paws here and the other one there." The leopard placed his paws where he had been told. As he was about to climb up, Anansi lifted up his knife, and in a flash it descended on his head. "Gow!" was the sound it made. The leopard landed in the pit, and "foom!" was the sound of the falling. Anansi got a ladder to climb into the pit so that he could pull the leopard up. He got the leopard out and went on his way. He said, "Fool, I am taking you to exchange for the stories of the sky god." He lifted up the leopard to go and give to Niami, the sky god, who said, "My hands have touched it. What remains still remains." Spider came back and carved an Aku's child. He tapped some sticky fluid from a tree and plastered the doll's body with it. Then he pounded some yams and put them in the doll's hand. He pounded some more yams and placed the doll in a brass basin. He tied some string around the doll's waist and went off with it and put it at the foot of an odum tree, the place where fairies come to play. And the fairy came along. She said, "Aku, Aqua, may I eat a little of this mash?" Anansi tugged at the string, and the doll nodded her head. The fairy told one of her sisters. "She says I may eat some." The sister said, "Eat some then." The fairy finished eating and thanked the doll. But when she thanked her, there was no answer. The fairy said to her sister, When I thanked her, there was no answer. The sister of the fairy said, "Slap her crying place." And she slapped it. Pa! And her hand stuck there. She said to her sister, "My hand is stuck." The sister said, "Take your other hand and slap her crying place again." And she took it and slapped her. Pa! And this one too stuck fast. The fairy said to her sister, "Both my hands are now stuck." The sister said, "Push it with your stomach." She pushed it with her stomach, and her stomach got stuck too. Anansi came and tied her up, and he said, "Fool, I have got you. I shall take you to the sky god and exchange you for his stories." And he took her back home with him. Anansi told his mother, Ya Nasia, the sixth child, "Rise up, let us go, for I am taking you along with the fairy to exchange you for the sky god's stories." He lifted them up and went to the place where the sky god lived. He said, "Sky god, here is a fairy, along with my old mother whom I told you about. She is here too." Now the sky god called his elders, the Kontiri chiefs, the Oyoko, Ankobia, and Kyodom, and he put the matter before them, saying, "Great kings have come and were not able to buy the sky god's stories. But Kwaku Anansi the spider has been able to pay the price. I received Umumboro, the hornet, from him. I received Umumosha, the fairy, from him. I received Osebo, the leopard, from him. I received Onini, the python, from him. And of his own free will, Anansi has added his mother to the lot. All of these things are here." He said, "Sing his praise." "Ee!" they shouted. The sky god said, "Kwaku Anansi, from today and forever, I take my sky god stories and present them to you. Kosi, kos, kos, my blessing, my blessing, my blessing. We shall no longer call them the stories of the sky god, and from now on, they will be spider stories. This is my story, which I have told. If it be sweet, or if it be not sweet, take some elsewhere, and let some come back to me." You've been listening to World Reading Club, presented by Hakeem Alibokis Alexander, here on Wisdom, Social Audio Inc., and Spreaker, Social Podcasting, presented for World Reading Club in association with Uniquilibrium. This edition's reading focus has come to us from the Annotated African American Folk Tales, edited and with a forward introduction and notes by Henry Louis Gates Jr. and Maria Tatar. There are some notes in here, as well as the source of this story here, adapted from R.S. Rattray, Akan Ashanti Folk Tales, 55 through 58. And it says, Spider is both animal and human, a trickster figure standing betwixt and between, embodying desire in all its excesses, along with efforts to measure and contain. On the one hand, we have the expansive, generous wisdom of story, and on the other, a greedy trapping and acquisition of animals. In this tale, Anansi buys the sky god stories. And what is the price? Nothing less than all the characters in plots staged by Spider. The sky god may now own the players, but Spider has created a story about the naming and ownership of stories, a meta-narrative that serves a foundational role as charter narrative, and that will also be preserved through cultural memory. Note that he would never have succeeded without the specific instructions issued by his wife Aso. The British captain R.S. Rattray collected this story while in the service of what was then known as the Gold Coast Colony, and it has been adapted here from his version. Rattray established a department of anthology in Kumasi, which gave him the opportunity to devote his full energies to studying Ashanti culture. And so there are several parts in this story. Now, there's a lot of annotation here. In the beginning, it says, we do not really mean we do not really mean what we are going to say is true. A typical opening line, one that emphatically calls attention to the status of the story as a lie. 2. Kwaku Anansi. Anansi is usually referred to as simply Anansi, the Akan word for spider. Here, Kwaku means father. 3. Nyankopon. Nyankopon is one aspect of the triune deity Nyame, with Nyame representing the cosmos. Nyankopon, its life-giving force, and Odo Mankoma, the creative power. 4. Kokofu, Bekwai, Asumengya, villages in the Ashanti region of Ghana. 5. What is the price of the stories? Stories are made from mere words, and it seems deeply ironic that we hear about the buying and purchasing of things that have no material substance. At the same time, nothing is more precious than the stories of a culture, and for that reason, the price for them is made almost impossible to pay by making a set of challenging demands. 6. Onini the Python. The choice of creatures, a python, hornets, a leopard, seems somewhat arbitrary, though each could be seen as incarnating some kind of attribute, e.g., stealth, suffering, swiftness. The fairy provides the opportunity to stage a version of the tar baby story. The fact that Anansi throws in his mother for good measure seems astonishing, but is treated in matter-of-fact fashion. 7. Plantain. A major food staple related to the banana in parts of Africa, Central America, and the Caribbean islands. I know I ate a lot of plantains. 8. Plastered the doll's body with it. Here is the form of the tar baby story, with a doll covered with a sticky substance, an interlocutor insulted by lack of responsiveness, and an aggressive punch that backfires. 9. Umamosha the fairy. Umamosha is also known as Umamosha and Kulparga and Chichiriga, all of whom are mischief-loving fairies and dwarfs. Dwarfs. It says dwarfs, not dwarves. Dwarfs with an F. 10. My story. The narrator lays claim to the story rather than crediting Anansi with ownership. 11. Let some come back to me. The story is given an attribute associated with edibles, and the narrator sends it into circulation but hopes to enjoy some returns as well. I will be back with the next story, which is called Rabbit Wants More Sense. Thank you for joining me here on Wisdom. Trey Ash, Elizabeth McClung, Cass, Latara, and Terry. I'll be right back.